Hi, I'm Shay. As part of my primary research, I decided to do a Voxpop video as a way of displaying the data that I gathered for my final project. So without further ado, let's get started.
Yes, I am, of both.
I am a fan of Marvel films.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be either of the Amazing Spider-Man films. I really like the first one.
The third Spider-Man film with Tom Holland was an absolute banger.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going to be very unpopular opinion here.
Spider-Man.
Into the Spider-Verse is my favourite. But if it's like MCU, Spider-Man No Way Home.
There's a lot of cool shots. The camera work I liked. And then, you know, there's a bit of nostalgia, there's a bit of, drama. There's all those things you want in a film.
It just matches my chaotic energy. And I just find it like the soundtrack is like immaculate and it just makes me happy. It's not like traditional sort of cliche superhero movie.
The story is great and humour is hilarious and the music slaps.
Because Andrew Garfield is hot as fuck.
I think it's the lightheartedness, but also the side of a deeper meaning. But yeah, definitely the lightheartedness and good action and good story as well.
I think it's familiarity. You know, I think most people, even if they're not into Marvel films, know of Marvel and they know of superhero characters. It's just so familiar and so common, and like it's people like that because it's like comforting. And even though it is like familiar, they still find ways to sort of make it new and interesting and exciting. And it's that sort of new, exciting, but still comforting feeling that I think I like.
Just the characters are like, they're intriguing, you know, they're cool, they're really cool. And because they've been releasing these movies for like so many years, you grow to know these characters and to sympathize with them. And even before the movies came out, people still knew these characters from like reading the comics and stuff, and so seeing like an adaptation of those comic book characters like on the big screen, yeah, it's great.
Like, it has an emotional aspect. There's not just a bad guy and then they're fighting him. You know, he has to deal with the death of his uncle and the death of his girlfriend and the death of his girlfriend's dad, and it's like everything is happening. And that's the kind of thing I like to watch, is like emotional stuff.
The fact that he's still a child, he's still trying to find his way in life, whereas the other superheroes, or most of them anyway, have already worked out, have lived from a normal human life for many centuries. So they've already discovered sort of like who they are and how they can do what they do to the best of their abilities to help other people out. Whereas Spider-Man is still trying to discover, still has that youthfulness and that immaturity with those powers. Because
he's a young superhero, I think that is very relatable to a lot of people that watch Marvel that are sort of teenagers. It's like more of a comedic style of film. Peter Parker is very, young and witty and humorous, and it's a bit more lighthearted compared to a lot of Marvel films, especially now that have become very dark. And don't get me wrong, I love that, but sometimes it's nice to have that like light mood in a superhero movie, because that's what it was like in the comic books.
And the characters. I feel like in Spider-Man there's like always a cool like web swinging scene and all that sort of shit. I feel like the action and the drama and the story, I honestly don't know. Ask Jacob. Cut to Jacob's clip of him talking about his answer, because I don't know.
Spider-Man, but maybe Spider-Man's a bit older, like from the PS4, like the game. He's now an adult and he's living in his own apartment. And he has to work his job to make money to pay his rent, but he also, basically does Spider-Man almost full time. and he's more experienced. He knows a bit more about what he's doing, and it takes a lot for him to get defeated. Because he's matured as a hero and as a person.
I think it would be nice to see a sort of more light-hearted side to superhero films again, and just like a lot of witty humor in a superhero film. It's great.
That aspect that he's still a child, still discovering, is kind of key to Spider-Man. I think if that's lost, it won't resonate as much, or it won't carry the same effect as what the original Spider-Mans would have or do have.
I like the Lizard Man, Kurt Connors. Poor Peter Parker. Him. Get him in it.
Goose. That's all I care about. I want to see Goose.
Well, the Spider-Man films, you gotta have Spider-Man, and then maybe there's another Spider-Man, because every Spider-Man film has like 7 Spider-Mans now. You gotta have some evil villain. Who's the best Spider-Man villain? Maybe you have Venom in there. Venom was kind of badass. And Aunt May. Oh, you should get Aunt May in there. You should have a death scene with Aunt May or Uncle... What's his name? Uncle Ben's? No, that's the rice guy.
The obvious one would be Tony Stark, because of their connection. Gwen or MJ would be quite a vital character and could have quite interesting, pivotal and poignant moments throughout.
Team up between Daredevil and Spider-Man, obviously because Daredevil resides in Hell's Kitchen, which is a part of New York, and Spider-Man looks over and protects the whole of New York. So, and they both have the same, well, for the most part, both have the same morals. They don't kill, but they want to make the city a better place and rid the city of crime.
No longer than 20 minutes, because my attention span is very short.
Like 5 to 10 minutes long. If it gets any longer than that, then I feel like it'd be a bit long, and you start to lose interest.
5 minutes minimum, just to make sure you can get all of the characters and hit all the things you want in there. So I'd say 5 to 10 minutes would be good for this type of video.
It helps tell the story, but it's not necessary. It shouldn't be relied upon. It's something to help push the narrative forward. So you can 100% do an action film without visual effects and still have a interesting and noteworthy action film, that is.
They are quite important, but I think it can be very easily overdone. I think maybe perhaps little and often. I think not too much. Yeah, it's like the best option for that.
I feel like having like dark humor might be a little bit out of place, but if you can make it work, then go ahead. I feel like that'd be pretty cool if you could make it work.
I do prefer more obvious comedy, just because I think it's easier to pick up on and understand, because I'm a bit slow.
I would say it's more obvious comedy, but in terms of personal preferences, subtle dark comedy is definitely more towards like my humor, and I'm more likely to like laugh out loud when watching a film if there's like subtle dark comedy.
I feel like that will fit with the tone of the short film itself. You need to include some sort of different lighting. So if you're starting out with like a happy jolly scene, then it goes to a fight scene, then it goes happy jolly again. You can't just have natural bright lighting throughout the whole of that. I feel like you need to start out like in the fight scene, it needs to be different. So you can differentiate between when it's like good and when it's bad by visual cues and stuff like that.
I think that comic book pop and very bright would work well. You can see the the brightness of the Spider-Man suit, and I feel like it would work well for like something that's a bit more comedy driven.
I'd say natural light, just to make it seem more real. Because obviously superhero films can very easily become tacky and feel like, okay, this is fantasy, but it's meant to be in the real world. So I think natural light is a really good way to like combat that. But also, I do like the dark, gloomy look, because it just makes it seem a bit more like exciting and unpredictable. Makes you a bit on edge as well.
Comic book pop. Very bright, because I think it's going to bring across that aspect of a comic book. It's a superhero film. Superheroes originated in comics, and I think because they are so fantastical, it makes sense that the lighting would be bright and fun, because that's what it is. It's something different, it's something exciting that we don't have in real life, so it's good to have it zingy.
I think the Doc piece could be really interesting, sort of like a cocky child in essence who's come across their powers and almost brag with it. I think that could be really interesting, but likewise the parody could also be really good. My personal preference would be the Doc piece.
Like, if you did like, if it was like a Spider-Man, okay, I don't think you even mentioned this in this, if it was like a Spider-Man vlog where he's just like, hey guys, welcome to my daily spider habits in the city of, is he in New York? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think the following Spider-Man documentary style would be better. I feel like that would be more of a unique premise and concept for the short film.
Personally, day in the life documentary style would be very, very funny and very interesting and very like lighthearted, and that's exactly what I'd love to like. I'd love to watch something like that, you know, something short and funny and just like new and interesting, and it would just sort of be like what he gets up to in his day-to-day life, and I think people would love that and be very keen to watch.
I would prefer a straight up parody to a day in the life, follow him around. While I do think that's a good idea, I think if you had a parody, you could do more with it and you could have more fun with it, and you could tell a story in a way that would probably be easier and more exciting and fast-paced and interesting than like a broken up mockumentary-esque kind of what day in the life, follow him around kind of thing.